Welcome to the Latino Nation podcast. We're here to celebrate the power, passion, and beauty of our culture. We share amazing Latino stories to entertain and inspire. I'm your host, Carmen Ramirez, marketing exec and badass mom, with my co-host, Eric Osuna, founder of Latin Live. And together with you, we are Latino Nation. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Latino Nation, a podcast that brings the world's most famous people, Latinos, and that you probably have not heard of, but it's okay because we're going to teach you all about them. We're very excited. First episode. We hope that you guys can join us throughout this journey. Our goal here is to literally shine the light on Latinos and embrace ourselves a little better and just to make the best out of it. So if you have a friend, si tienes una amiga, una comadre, un compadre, make sure you hit them up and tell them, hey, have you heard about Latino Nation? And jump on the website, Latino Nation, of course. Everywhere on social media. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, and definitely find us on your favorite podcast channel, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Google Play, anywhere you like to listen to podcasts, that's where you're going to want to subscribe. And here's out. My name is Carmen Ramirez, your host for today. Joining me is my co-host, Eric Osuna. Say what's up.
What's up, everybody? This is Eric Osuna. I'm the CEO and founder of Latin Live, but I'm also here with you guys on Latino Nation, and I can't wait to share with you guys the amazing list of guests that we have coming up. And what we want to do is shine the light on people that look and feel and sound and taste just like you and me. And you know, one thing that this next guest, I was so I got chills when I heard about his story, because that's exactly the kind of story that we want you guys to hear. They're inspirational stories that you don't necessarily hear about, like on, maybe some bigger channels. But this is the real deal. This is the real stuff we're going to be talking about. And I'm so excited to talk to our guests today. Carmen, do you want to do the intro?
That is so worth it. Yes. Rene Moran is joining us today. Hi, Rene. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. What's going on, guys? How you doing today?
We're doing very, very great. We're super excited to have you on board. So let me just tie up a little bit of who Rene Moran. You might be asking yourself, ¿y quién es este chico? Well, let me tell you. He was born and raised in Santa Ana, El Salvador. When he was a baby, he was brought to the United States. Hello, many of us happened to go through that same route. And he was actually living in Florida. Very interesting. He was living in Florida with his family as a baby and decided one day to just boom, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I think at one point, and you might correct me wrong throughout the story, you were throwing your goals or your aspirations to be a manager at a fast food restaurant. Your mom came at you and she's like, mira, mijito, a little cachetadas, get your life together. You need to do something better than this. And he just decided to pack up all his life in a suitcase and move to LA. Now, he had no idea what he was going to get himself into because, Florida and California are two completely different worlds. Yes. But fortunately, he did some amazing stuff that now Rene is best known for his role as Amo Cortez in the 20th Century Fox feature film Stuber. Yeah. And not only that, this was 2019. I know that you also came out in Switched at Birth, which is also one of the family's favorite series that was featured in 2015. Not to talk about what you've also accomplished, Get Away with Murder in 2018. You have been around, Rene, in a good way.
Yeah, I've been really blessed. I've had several opportunities, and I just try to do my best whenever they come my way. And luckily, they've been like stepping stones, just leading from one to the next. And in the in between time, I just try to work on my craft and stay mentally healthy and physically healthy. Just keep following the signs and keep exploring.
That is amazing. So, Rene, walk us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Florida. What were your aspirations? What were your goals? What was your life like? Tell me, walk me through this.
It was amazing. Mira, yo soy de Orlando, and I love Florida. I have so much love. It was actually very, very difficult for me to make that decision to leave when I did leave, but it was amazing. I grew up. It had its set of challenges. Again, like you mentioned, I was born in Santa Ana, El Salvador, and in in Orlando, there's not too many people from El Salvador. If anything, I think I might have had one friend that was from El Salvador, but all my other Latino friends, they were all Puerto Rican, Dominican.
Cubans.
Yeah, los cubanos también. And it was dope because I got to experience their culture. I had a front row seat to all this. And it was interesting because I couldn't compare it to El Salvador. I got here when I was about 14 or 15 months. And I went through elementary, middle school, and high school in Orlando. So it was all I knew. And I really thought it was actually my culture as well. But once I moved to Los Angeles and I was actually surrounded by people that are really from El Salvador, I realized
the diversity of California.
Oh yeah, we're definitely a melting pot out here. So it was really interesting because once I got here, it felt like I needed to actually learn about my own culture from scratch.
So have you ever been to El Salvador?
I haven't actually. I just became a citizen about 2.5 years ago. So I didn't have permission to leave the country.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you would be considered the legit dreamer here in the United States.
You know what? It's interesting. I thought that, I talked with my father and I was like, Dad, this is actually a recent conversation we had. And I was like, Dad, am I considered a dreamer? And he was like, no, we came over here on political asylum.
Okay.
So it was a whole different situation that we had going on, and it was actually very challenging. I have memories of being just a boy and seeing my dad going to these law offices, just trying to figure out how we can stay in the United States legally. And it was very difficult. I noticed that I didn't know in detail because I was just a boy, but I knew that they were having a difficult time making things work. And they did the best they could. And luckily we were able to stay here and, have opportunities, and ultimately about 2.5 years ago, finally locked down that permanent, status.
He ain't going nowhere. You're gonna land that big role now. He's a citizen.
I'm here.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit of what it was, the transition between Orlando and LA. Like, what was it like when you were little? Going to school, what were your dreams? What did you want to be when you grow up? That typical question que te preguntan in school,
it's tough. Yeah, honestly, it was tough because I didn't have an answer to that question. I remember how teachers would talk to us in high school and be like, start thinking about what you want to become when you get older. And, I could never pinpoint something that I was passionate about. I was having difficulties at home and things with identity. My parents were raising me third world country style in America. And and
wait, what does that mean? Your ass was getting whooped?
It in very creative ways,
La chancla.
La chancla, el cincho, you name it.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I went through that, and that was kind of difficult because I didn't see my friends having to go through those challenges. But yeah, it was difficult to try to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. But ultimately, the decision to move to Los Angeles, it came from just a domino effect of bad decisions I had been making. And I was just kind of sleeping from couch to couch for a little bit. My parents couldn't handle me, and they would just toss me out, and my ego wouldn't let myself apologize. So I would be like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. I'm fine.
What age are we talking about? Like, how old were you when you were going through this?
It started around 16, 17 years old. And there was just a couple years where I just was, I was seeking my freedom, again, being raised third world country style. That means you don't do sleepovers. My mom and my dad, they didn't believe in sleepovers. So I didn't get to do those things my friends did. I didn't get to try out for the basketball team and the football team because, when I was 8 years old, my brother was born, and being the son of immigrant parents, my parents had to work, and they both worked 2 jobs apiece. So if they're not home to watch a baby, then who do you think's going to watch them? It became me. And I didn't really have an option. That was my job in this immigrant household, was to, everyone had to chip in and help somehow. So I became a full-time nanny at the age of 8, 9 years old. And I would go to school, and at the end of the day, I'd come home and I would change my brother's diapers and make his bottles and do all those things. So I didn't get to go outside and ride my bike as much as my other friends. But it's funny, when it was happening, I didn't think of myself as a nanny. I just thought of myself as a good brother.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and
Renee, you said something really important that I think, there's a lot of people, especially younger kids, that are like, they're lost. They haven't figured stuff out. I have a 14-year-old, and he was super stressed out going into high school. Like, Dad, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for them? It's
a heavy question at that age.
When I told him, look, don't worry about that shit yet. Worry about that when you're 20 maybe, or 30 or 40. I'm like still trying to figure it out. Don't And you said something else that was really important, and I want you to talk about this too at some point. You said signs, because I think that sometimes, your soul talks to you through signs.
Yeah.
Figure out like what it is that your path, right?
Yes.
But I think that's so important, especially with people listening to that may be lost. It's okay to be lost. Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah. You can't resist it. I mean, I've always had this gut feeling of when I know I'm doing something that's wrong and when I know I'm doing something right. And even though I know it might be wrong, I still do it sometimes. And
dang, it's that thing we all do.
Yeah. But for me at that time, when I was a teenager, all those times that I didn't get to go to the sleepovers and all those fun things. Once I was, a little bit older, in my 16, 17, I was bigger than my mom. Her belt didn't hurt as much anymore. That's kind of when I started to rebel a little bit.
Did you ever do that whole like, hey, that didn't hurt me? And she's like, oh, really?
Yeah. I started just taking them, and I'm like, Mom, that's all you got?
I would laugh at my mom, dude, until the point where I would break her and she would start laughing, and then she would start crying because she wouldn't hurt me.
That's very psychological on your part.
Very, very.
Yeah, no, but I didn't really have too much of a sense of direction once I started making those bad decisions, and I was just trying to survive and figure out where I was gonna sleep. And luckily for me, I had some really good friends, and they let me crash on their couches. Their parents didn't mind, and I somehow survived. There's a lot of other details and challenges that were mixed into that stuff. But in the end, I had to change my scenery. I was lost, and I didn't have anything. I'll never forget this. My mother was the one who convinced me to move here, and that happened after we had this very long conversation. At the time, my father and we had gotten into a little bit of a scuffle, and I was 19. I was about 19 years old at the time, and so the police got involved, and I wasn't able to return home. So not to get too deep into that, I needed to figure something out, and I was sleeping on a couch again, and I was just kind of sick of it. My clothes were always in trash bags because I was just going from
house to house.
My clothes were always wrinkled. It was just a really bad spot. So I had this conversation with my mother, and she says, she calls me Daniel by my middle name. And she says, Daniel, you don't have a job, you don't have an education, and you don't have any kids. She's like, why don't you just leave this place? And the first thing I said, I'm like, hell no, mama, this is my neighborhood. Este mi barrio. Like, I ain't going nowhere. Everybody knows me, and I know everybody. I'll never leave this place. And my mom says, mira, te escuchas como un pendejo. Pon atención. Sabes que tú no tienes que mudarte para siempre. You don't got to leave forever. Why don't you go for 6 months? And right there, that was the first. She said 6 months. If you don't like it, you can come back.
Renee's thinking vacation for 6 months.
So, yeah, something like that. And when she said 6 months, I said, you know what? She's right. Why don't I just go away for a little bit, and I can always come back. So about a week later, I was on a flight, and as soon as I landed in LA, I remember my cousin picked me up, and we were driving down Sepulveda to get to the 405. And I remember I just started bawling, and I was crying because I felt like I had made a tremendous mistake. I never wanted to live in LA. I never had any intention. I would come visit when I was a kid with my parents, but I enjoyed the time. But Orlando era mi barrio. That was my neighborhood, and I loved it. So the first few weeks out here were difficult, but luckily for me, I had some really, really cool cousins who would take me out and showed me a great time. And ultimately hanging out with them led me to meet more people, which kind of started my journey in LA.
I'm just curious, before you go there, what would you party? What would you do? Would you go to clubs? Would you?
When I got here?
Yeah. So you
Well,
said
he was like 19, so
Yeah.
technically he couldn't party.
Well,
yeah.
Well, my cousins, they were like in their later 20s, and you would think they were still in college. So they would, they would hang out at their houses, and they would always have me over, and I would get to hang out with them. And then they would leave at the end of the night to go to bars and clubs. So I would stay home. But yeah, they would, they would take me out to dinner. I remember within the first week I was living here, it was, they took me out to dinner, and they were like, we're going to have sushi. And I'm like, what the heck is that? and
what neighborhood was this, Rene? What neighborhood were you?
Van Nuys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I moved to Van Nuys with my tia. And my tia, she gave me a room to stay in her house. And, one of the things my tia said, she was like, don't bring any troubles to my house, and you can stay here as long as you need to. And I said, tia, I am going to be perfect. Like, trust me, you have nothing to worry about. I'll never let you down. I saw being here as an opportunity to discover who I really am. Going back to being from El Salvador and being raised in Orlando, what was challenging was, I always wanted to be accepted by my community, and not being Puerto Rican or not being Dominican, I always felt kind of on the outside. And, who doesn't want to be accepted by their community? So I call it the first role that I ever played in acting, was me being this guy. I learned the culture, the Puerto Rican culture and the Dominican culture so well. And it was just so natural, like la manera que yo hablo español y all that, the food, everything, the style, the dancing, la música, everything, the clothes, everything. And I became so good at it, people would never ask me where I was from.
Dude, I would have never guessed you were from El Salvador, honestly,
really?
Ever.
It's funny. I get that all the time, even to this day. But yeah, that's what I did. And when I got to LA, I told myself, I'm like, you know what? You don't need to be anybody no more but yourself. And I took full advantage of that. And I accepted. I'm like, tú eres del Salvador. You're from there. And let's explore the world like this now. And yeah, it showed me a lot about my family background. And I grew this new love for my mom and my dad, understanding more about the struggles and the history that they lived in El Salvador. And it just kind of gave me a new appreciation for my own culture. And yeah, it was just a very, very eye-opening experience. And I'm glad I made that decision.
That's awesome. You kind of saw the opportunity your parents brought you to and took full advantage of it. So what happens next? You get to your tia's house. She lends you her room. She's like, all right, don't bring any trouble. You starting to find yourself. Where do you start working?
It's funny. Okay, so remember that sushi meal that I was just mentioning? Mm-hmm. I remember we went to the sushi spot over here in Tarzana, California. And
did you like the sushi?
Okay, first of all, no, I was grossed out because I what is this? Y'all eating raw fish? Like, you guys, are you sure this isn't going to make you sick later? So I ate all the cooked stuff. My cousin was like, eat the eel. That stuff's cooked. Okay. So anyways, we were at that sushi restaurant, and I remember this big group of girls walked in together, like they were having dinner together. And I was fresh from Florida. I had the Nicky Jam vibe in my veins. And like, I thought I was Daddy Yankee and all that. And I was feeling myself. And I remember, I saw two of the girls walk outside, and I asked my cousin for his cell phone, and I walked outside and I pulled the very classic line, do you know what time it is?
Oh,
I know. But it worked, and they responded. We exchanged numbers, and I told them my story that I had just gotten here from Florida. And they mentioned to me, they were like, hey, if you're looking for a job, we can get you a job at a gym. And I said, at a gym? I was like, I'm not a trainer. And they're like, no, you can just answer phones at the front desk. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I probably will need a job while I'm here. Why not? So that's how I discovered my first job, which was at a gym called Bodies in Motion down here in Encino, California. Mm-hmm. And I started working there. And you know what's beautiful about that? I had been making those bad decisions, and I was very unhealthy internally and physically. And it was really funny how I got here, And the first job, without me even looking, was at a gym, a place where I could rehabilitate myself.
That's the
And
perfect place, right? If you put
isn't
two and
that,
two
yeah,
together, that's ironic. Like,
very,
huh?
it's,
Like
it's,
it's
it's
structured.
powerful.
It's structured. It's a gym is a place to structure yourself, to pull yourself together, to set yourself goals.
Yes.
And damn, wow,
Yeah.
that's,
So,
that's incredible.
Definitely a sign.
right. That's what I'm saying. And what happened, what translated from working at the gym was, you know, I had a routine. I was surrounded by people who considered their health a very important issue. And little by little, I learned how to take better care of myself, and I grew very passionate about it. And about a year and a half flowed by, and I was doing great. I was back on my feet. I was healthy. I was strong. And, you know, I felt it was time to go. And I remember I was waiting for my paycheck, and I was going to purchase a ticket to go back home to Orlando. I'd already talked to my mom, and my tia knew, and I was ready to go. And literally the day I'm going to buy my plane ticket, I was approached by one of the Pilates instructors in the gym. And she mentioned to me that there was a gentleman that she trains, who is looking for someone to answer phone calls at his office. And I told her that I wasn't interested. And the reason being is, there was two members of the gym that had offered me job interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to both of them. One of them was for a real estate office, and the other one was for a retirement company. And I had befriended them. You know, I worked at the front desk, and I was very chatty. I would talk to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And these people, they brought me in for these interviews. Now, mind you, at the time, remember, my parents are hard workers, and they usually worked in restaurants and things like that. So I didn't really have any professional clothes. I didn't have any button downs. All I owned was like a pair of Timbs, and I had these
The
cargo.
Echo shorts.
Yeah, they were pants, but
Okay.
they did have the cargo pockets on the side, and I had this Timberland sweater that matched my boots. And to me, I look fly.
Mm.
But yeah, I went on these. I went on these office interviews, and they never hired me. And after the second one, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, I think they think I'm a joke, and I felt very insecure. So when this opportunity came up, I was like, I don't want to go through that experience again. And she looked at me and she said, Rene, you should really consider this. And she told me that he owned this office floor, and it was just supposed to be really amazing. So I said, fine, I'll take the meeting. And I did. And I showed up in my Timberland boots and my
Mm.
Timberland sweater and the same attire. I still didn't have any button downs. And as soon as I got off the elevator, the first thing I saw on the walls were these Tupac posters. They were in these frames, and I was like, whoa, what is this place? I love Tupac. Tupac's music has just gotten me through so many things in my life. And for me, that was like an omen. I was like, wait a second, where am I right now? So
That was your next sign, buddy.
Wow.
right. Yeah. So I walk in, I take the meeting, and the gentleman that was interviewing me, he hired me within 5 minutes. He never looked at my clothes. He hardly looked at my resume. We just talked for a few minutes, and he asked me when I could start. And that was the beginning of that. And working there is really what got the ball rolling with my acting career.
That is insane. So
Yeah.
you, from thinking, man, what am I doing, to I'm going back home, to jumping back into like, you know what, let me give it this one last try. It is, I think, something that a lot of Latinos, we do that a lot. You know, we have this identity of ourselves, and we don't necessarily fit into the business attire. We don't necessarily fit into what the world expects us to be. And you find yourself in situations where you kind of set yourself up for failure, pretty much, you know?
The mindset basically is you hold yourself back sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. You know, I look back and I think to myself, the only other times that I had been in office buildings back when I was a kid was when I went to the doctor's office or something like that, you know? So, you know, you have kids whose parents are professionals, and you see those things, and they're common, and they're not a big deal. But for me, it was intimidating. And I know when I started working at that office, it was interesting. I wanted to be accepted, just like anybody else. You want to be accepted by your peers and your community. And I knew that I needed to enunciate better. I needed to speak more proper, and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to dress better. I wanted to fit in. And being there helped me achieve those things. Just being surrounded by these types of people.
But it's not that you also just did it to fit in and because that's the way the world you were evolving yourself around with. It's very important to say that it's okay to step outside our box.
Yes.
Because I feel like a lot of times as Latinos, and myself included, we're so surrounded with our neighborhoods. There's this really famous saying in Spanish, dime con quién te juntas y te diré con qué, en qué te convertirás y en quién eres.
Yeah.
That's why I'm only hanging out with billionaires.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Totally.
that the fact that your mindset was like, I'm okay with change is something that I think as Latinos, we need to embrace. We need to learn that because sometimes we get just our ego, man. Like you said, it just hits us and it doesn't let you grow. So, oh, dude, I'm excited. All right. So you go on, you get the job.
What with that, like, how did your mind blow? What, like, give us one where your like brain just went. I mean, obviously you walk in, there's Tupac on the wall. You're like,
I would have been like, huh?
I was very innocent and very green. I didn't really know what was going on around me. I just knew that these people looked very successful and they looked like they were professionals, but kind of laid back at the same time. Then little by little, I started understanding and learning what businesses were on these floors, on this floor. And they consisted of a casting. There were casting directors on the floor. There was managers, entertainment attorneys. There was agents. I mean, everything in show business was on this floor.
It's like everything you need to become a star you had in front of you. Wow.
Correct. But I was learning. So I never thought to myself at all, oh, you can be an actor now because you know these people. It was never anything. It was just a job. And I was just excited to be there and learn and be surrounded by it. I remember the casting office would have casting sessions where they would audition actors and they would come in and there would be groups of actors out in the front lobby. And I would be so excited to just be in the middle of it and talk to them when they would talk to me. And I would, it was just fun. It was exciting. And little by little, I began to understand what everyone's purpose is, what they're doing. And ultimately at some point one day, I befriended this director by the name of Nick Vallelonga, who was casting a film called Stiletto. The casting office is called Pembroke Front Casting, and they were doing sessions for a couple of weeks. And over those weeks, I got to know Mr. Nick Vallelonga. Nick actually won an Oscar last year for a movie called The Green Book.
Nice.
And yeah, he's a great man. And
hey, Rene, how old were you at this point? What was your age at that point?
Roughly, I was probably, I was like in my early 20s around this time. Probably like around 23 or 24. And so, yeah, so we got to know each other over those few weeks. And one day he came in and he said, hey, I'd like for you to audition for, and he's like, no. He's like, it's okay. Do you speak Spanish? And I said, oh yeah. And he said, well, can you act mad in Spanish? I was like, oh, of course. Me and my mom, we fight all the time. Like, we good. I got this.
Examples.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. So did he tell you to like act something out right then and there?
No, he told me, he said, just come inside and I want you to improvise a scene. I just want you to be mad in Spanish. Let's see what you got. And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Dude, you didn't even think about it twice.
So wait a minute. I want to know about this part because you at this point you had seen other actors.
Yes. At
this point you kind of knew some stuff. Did you like go, because I know a lot of actors, they go inside that person. Who did you go into? And then was that you? Was that your dad? Was that like just,
you know what? It was so, I felt like a little boy playing cops and robbers. That's kind of what I would relate to. Yeah. I love to play. I've always loved to play. And for me, I was just like, okay, well, we're just playing cops and robbers right now, except I'm the bad guy and I'm Latino and I'm speaking Spanish. So I went into the room. It was a bunch of people sitting around, maybe like 10 people in the room. And the casting directors were in there. And at this point, they're my friends. So I was a little bit self-conscious.
Oh, man.
And I ended up they were like, all right, go, action. And I turn around with a gun in my hand and I start saying all these bad words in Spanish. And I'm like, get down on the floor. Pal piso, and then it was done. And I was like, wow, that was kind of silly, but okay. And then a day later, they told me that I'd booked the role. And I was like, what? Jesus. That's crazy. And then, yeah, that was one of the first things. Also, actually, that job, it got me into the union. And funny story is, they told me I booked the job, and they said somehow I misunderstood in the communication that I was supposed to ask for some paperwork, but I thought it was a person, and it was named Taft Hartley. So I show up on set, and the first person with a headset, I asked them, I said, "Hey, do you know where I can find Mr. Taft Hartley? My name is Rene. I was asked
Oh,
to find him." And the lady looked at me and she said, "I'll be right back." And she comes back and she's like, "I got good news and I got bad news." And she's like, "What do you want first?" And I said, "I'll take the bad news." And she says, "Mr. Taft Hartley does not exist." And so immediately I was like, "Oh my God, mi primer trabajo," and I'm already messing this up. I'm like, "This is great." And then she says, "Well, the good news is Taft Hartley is paperwork, and you're officially in the Screen Actors Guild. You're in the union now." And the first thing I said, I was like, "What is that?" And she said, "Just go fill out the paperwork." So I found out later through the stunt guys that Taft Hartley is, well, first of all, the Screen Actors Guild is the union for actors. So whenever you work big projects, big films, things you see on TV, you have to be in the union to even qualify to be able to be in these productions. And so actors, from what I understand, sometimes spend years.
trying to get in.
Yes.
Damn.
And what a Taft Hartley is it's basically, to get in, you have to have 3 vouchers, and you get them on one project, and then maybe the next one, and then maybe the next one. A Taft Hartley is all 3 vouchers in one, and which is it's kind of special. And that's how I got into the union, and then that led me to meet somebody else at the office. There was a commercial agent by the name of Danny Wolf, who would come in once a week to pick up her mail. And her and I just got to know each other over the span of a few weeks. And then, one day she says, "Hey, you should give me your picture." And my response was, "What you want my picture for?"
Ah,
And she said to
that
me,
mentality, dude.
"Yeah, what you want my picture for, man?"
So innocent.
And she says to me, she says, "Rene, do you know what I do?" And I was like, "No, but I know you get a lot of pictures in the mail." And that's when she told me, she's like, I'm an agent for actors. I get them working commercials." And I said, "Whoa, wait a second. You want me to be an actor?" No, 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 no. That's crazy. And the only reason I felt like that, Carmen, you said something earlier. It's like we limit ourselves in what we think we can achieve.
Right.
And when she asked me to be an actor, I just thought that I wasn't worthy of that. I thought that was just something that was way too special and way too cool for me to ever do.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Nah, I don't know about that, but thank you." So I politely turned her down, and a couple months passed by, and I'm still surrounded Monday through Friday. I'm surrounded by the entertainment industry. And then one day I just said, "You know what? No, like, I think I can do that. If I want to be great, I can be great too. It's not just for rich people out there, for special people. Like, I can do it too." So I went out of my way, and I got some very basic headshots taken, and I gave them to her. And then she started submitting me on projects. And mind you, at the time, I don't really have any experience. I never called myself an actor. But she started submitting me, and I started learning firsthand by going to auditions and learning on the spot. And then about a month or two after working with her, she got me we booked a national commercial for Ford Focus.
Oh, nice.
And I had no idea what to expect. I remember showing up on set. We shot it in North Hollywood off of Lancashire. And I showed up. I had no idea what to expect. They escorted me to a trailer, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I get a room. This is great." I would sit outside in a chair. I don't mind. Like,
there you go again, limiting yourself to just,
yeah,
"I'm fine with a chair and a glass of water."
Yeah, I brought my own water, actually.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm playing.
I'm
No,
surprised you didn't bring your
That's the
sandwich and your
green
burrito.
That's funny. No, but that was my first experience on set. And I remember I called her at the end of the day, and I said to her, I said, "Danny, that was so much fun. Like, I would have done that for free." And she says, "No, no, no, no." And I said, "No, Danny, this isn't about the money. I would have done that for $100. I had a great time. Thank you so much." And she said, "Rene, you have no idea what's coming." Ultimately, I got paid for the project, and it was just a bunch of checks. And I was like, "What? This is from me?" like, this is crazy. Like I've never had money in my life. I've always just had a couple bucks, and
Live check to check.
yeah. And I remember she told me, she said, Rene, she's like, if you want to keep doing this, you need some training, you need some education. If we can put some education on your resume, people will want to see you more. So I said, you tell me what I have to do and I'll do it. And she said, all right, well, first things first, you need to sign up for an improv class. That'll look great on your resume for commercials. And so I said, okay. And I followed her instructions, and I signed up at an improv school called Upright Citizens Brigade. And going to improv classes, man, that was so much fun. It taught me to not be so self-conscious when I'm doing silly things. And that was the beginning of my training. From there, I went on to study Meisner at schools like Playhouse West. I studied Adler. I studied at different studios with different teachers, and that was the beginning of my like training. Just to become more familiar with the craft and to hone in on some skills.
Hey, Rene, I think
Yeah.
this is another really important point here. I think I'm always thinking about the people that are watching and listening.
Yeah.
Because that's the people that, just like you in Orlando, I feel like that's my hood, the people that are listening. And I know a lot of them are like, improv, that's not, like you said, that's not for me. That's some, you know, what could you share? Like, if I'm going to be a lawyer, if I'm going to be a doctor, why is going to improv could be good for you? Why do you have?
That's a great question, Eric.
And then, like, would you recommend that for people?
Yes. Oh my God, that's a great question, Eric. Actually, it's funny. The majority of the students in my class weren't even actors. A lot of them were actually in that class because some had to give speeches in their offices.
Public speaking is no joke.
It really isn't. And there was a lot of people. Some people were just there because they literally claimed that they were very shy, and they needed something to help them break out of that. So there was multiple reasons. The class was not all actors, which actually I was a bit surprised. But there were just people there who felt that they needed to work on their shyness.
Their people skills.
Correct. Correct. So improv is something it's just so much fun. I mean, you're in a safe environment where being silly is okay, and it just breaks you out of any uncomfortableness that you have inside. That shyness kind of disappears. And again, you're in a very big support group where we're all supporting each other. And it's just fun. Who doesn't like to laugh and giggle and have a great time? Yeah.
That is amazing. And you know what? I really appreciate the fact that you're sharing all this information, because not a lot of people dive deep into exactly how they got into it. Whether it's someone who's already made it, it's kind of like, well, I made it. Do I really want to tell somebody the secrets? You know what I mean? It happens a lot. It happens a lot.
Well, Carmen, I'll tell you this. There's definitely some pieces to the recipe that I keep very close to my heart, and
that's awesome.
that's very sacred to me. But those are things that I would only share with people that are like out on the front lines, that are going through things. But yes, for the most part, I'm down to share the recipe. There's just a couple in there that are very sacred to me that I hold tight to the process.
Well, we definitely do appreciate that, and we do know that as Rene grew into something that he had no idea, it can be possible for anyone else seeking to want to do this. It just depends on us.
Or anything, Carmen, let me tell you something. Being an actor, like, that was never anything on my radar. And for me, it kind of goes to show you, like, you can literally become anything you want. I mean,
boom.
Yeah, no.
Right there, Rene, that right there is magic. I think and I think for people that are watching, listening, we do, like, we keep going back to this, we hold ourselves back. But if you just imagine whatever the hell you want to be, the owner of like a fleet of jets, that's what you want. You can do that.
You can.
And
you can.
You got to believe it. Message that I think you have for
you, Eric. You're right. You really have to believe it. You have to think about it all the time. You have to make sacrifices, and you got to be ready, because there's going to be people in your own circle that are going to tell you that you can't achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually is very challenging. You know, you have people in your circle who clearly love you, you know, but maybe they never were able to achieve some of the things that they dreamed about. So they think that, you know, maybe you can't either. And it's difficult to hear that. I think that's why it's very important. I know now I surround myself with nothing but people that are encouraging and positive. And I think that's huge, you know.
That's
Eric,
another boom moment.
yeah,
I think.
Papa,
This is like bomb. You're dropping bombs.
Literally, straight up.
Eric,
No, but you know,
That's so important that what you said, because we do, unfortunately, like, you know, you said the way you grew up, I forget what you call it, ghetto style, or that style, right?
yeah.
Which I grew up that way too. I think Carmen, same way.
gosh, ni me digas. I was born and raised in Oakland.
Oh man.
Is the like talk shit or
Yeah.
talk s about you, even the people you love, people
bro,
you
they
care about.
clown you. You know what's funny though?
Oh, they hate and they clown.
They can.
It's inbred in the culture, and it's time to drop a bomb on that.
You know what's funny though? You keep going at what you do, and your circle gets smaller.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell you something. All of a sudden, when people start to see the results, all of a sudden for them it clicks, like, holy crap, like he never gave up, she never gave up, you know, and look, they're getting results now. Like, and then all of a sudden they pop up again, and they're the first ones to congratulate you when they were the first ones to try to bring you down sometimes. But you know, you just have to use that as motivation, and
exactly.
you know, if you look, if you love something, you're gonna go after it, and again, you just got to be willing to make the right sacrifices that it's gonna take to get there, and not give up, you know.
Rene, do you think it's important to love your haters?
Because
they're the
look,
ones
I don't
sometimes that drive you, right? Like if you didn't have the hater, that troll, you'd be like, you know.
I'll tell you what.
I'm gonna show you.
Yeah, no, you know, I don't even like to label them as haters. I you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and
non-believers.
Yeah, and you know, if someone doesn't think that you can do it, I think for me the first thing I think of is like, why would they say that? Are they going through something? But you don't dwell on it. You know, again, if you love something, it doesn't matter what anyone says, and that's the one thing we got to shake. You know, I know when I was a kid, I was very self-conscious about a lot of things, and I still am. You know, there's things I'm still insecure about. But when I was a kid, it was so easy for someone to turn off my dream just because
to bring it down.
Yeah, and you know, and you have doubt, and then like I think Carmen, you might have said this earlier. You know, you are the people that you keep, and so, you know, when you're in a team and you got your group of friends and one of them starts to succeed, it almost feels like sometimes they want to pull you down. So it
doesn't feel like it, sweetie. It actually does happen. Okay. It doesn't, it's like, it doesn't feel like it. Oh no, it happens. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I have a couple of podcasts that I dive on that I actually have a part of as well. And I have the opportunity to interview a very interesting girl. Her name is Hazel Ortega. She's from LA as well. And she's the author of the book From Bounce Checks to Private Jets.
Ooh,
and she legit, you know, I mean, her story is so incredible. And I'm pretty sure I'll have her on the Latino Nation podcast as well. She talked about how she creates these circles of friends, right? So she gave a really good example, which is, again, it goes to show that the people you hang around with, the people you surround yourself with can also help you through whatever it is you're going through.
100%.
And she says, yo, I create this WhatsApp group. And if I want to lose weight, you know, I get my comadres that want to lose weight as well. And we start challenging each other and we support each other. If I want to have a book club, I create friends that love books, but I have all these little niches and groups, and it just helps me become and get to the goals that I want to get to. She's like, because if I'm trying to lose weight and I go and tell my comadre that's trying to, you know, go and venture out to the best restaurants and find the best desserts, that's the wrong crowd. So she literally told me that, and I was like, oh my God,
brilliant.
That's so smart. I'm like, how come I never thought about that? But it's so true, right?
What it sounds like you're saying is shine the light on what it is that you want, and then just you don't have to see anything else. Shine the light on what it
Yeah.
is.
Focus, focus and try to keep getting better at what you do daily, and expect some challenges and toughness. There's going to be days you want to give up. Those are the days you really got to sink your heels in and keep striving.
You know who you remind me of, Rene? I met, I'm forgetting his name right. Willis.
Willis.
The famous, we're going to have to like.
Oh, dime.
What's his name? He's huge. He's like a monster actor.
His name is Willis.
Black. He's young. He's been in every single movie.
Give me one of the movies.
He has it on the tip of his tongue.
Eric es Latino.
No, he's black.
Oh,
Will Smith.
How do you forget Will Smith, dude?
So Will Smith, I got to meet him at the Univision offices in LA.
Yeah.
I always wanted to meet that dude because, he inspired me. Like, he's one of the persons that says, like, do your best every single day.
100%.
Do your best with everything that you do. And this guy, he made it already. When I met him, he was like a superstar. He was like so amped up about this interview he was about to do.
Yes.
Like, it was his best work was going to go into this interview. I'm like, you don't have to do that, man. You got like, you're the man. But what you just said right now, like, I think Latinos need to hear that too, because like maybe we're not going to do our best job. And, back when you were working, for example, in that gym, you were giving your best.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And you're giving your best. Like, it's an example, I think, to a lot of people listening, that when you do your best every day, even though you're hating what you're doing, or first of all, if you're hating what you're doing, what are you doing? But like, giving your best, I think, says so much and does so much. Right.
It opens up doors. First of all, Eric, I love you for that comparison because Will Smith has actually been my hero growing up my entire life. And it's actually a funny story when I've only had one meeting with agents, and when I met with them, I remember I walked into the room. I had a button down this time, no Tim's.
Just kidding.
And I left them in the trunk. They were in my car though. No, I walked into the room, and that's actually one of the first things I said to them, Eric. I said, literally, we didn't talk about acting or what jobs they could get me. Literally, the first thing that came out of my mouth, I said, I want to create a brand, and I want it to be like I'm the Latino Will Smith. And
boom, sign right there.
Eric, for real, you nailed it with that.
Sign.
And that's actually been kind of like a map and a compass for me.
It's amazing.
Yeah, just he's so inspiring.
I picked that up. I picked up that vibe.
He's a brujo now. He's doing all this little, like, he's all up in the signs and stuff. Like, what? Wait, hold on, Eric. Hold on.
Eric, that's fun. Travieso.
Try to shave the head.
Right. Hey, so Rene, tell me a little bit about like what it is when you wake up in the morning. What do you have a routine? Because I know you've worked in the gym. Tell me your routine. Break that up for me.
You really want to hear it? Oh, that's,
yes.
I love this question. Okay, so every morning I get up about 6:30, right?
Okay, so time is important. I gotta wake up earlier. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. We're not on the Mark Wahlberg. It ain't no 3 a.m. workout, but
right.
I'm up at 6:30, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to challenge myself physically. I want to do the most painful thing that I'm gonna do as the very first thing in the day. So just depending on what I'm doing for training that day, it could either consist of a run or I'll walk uphill, but something physically demanding that's going to make me challenge and struggle. I want to feel that pain. I want to hurt in the morning. After that, I take an ice cold shower for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I have a timer. I don't know why it's 4 minutes and 11 seconds, but that's the timer that I put on. And
okay.
I take a freezing cold shower, and then after that, I make myself breakfast, and from there, I
we pause it there for a minute because I'm curious why the cold shower, and then also, I mean, because you just worked out, I'm sure, but is there a reason? And then also, why the 4:11? Is there any significance? Or
You know, there's not really a significance to the 411. I'm not sure how I landed on that number, but the ice cold shower is actually designed. If you do research, this is something that I actually learned from Navy SEAL training. There's something about that ice cold water that it just it opens up your blood vessels. It gets your blood flowing, and you're on a different tone. It gets you if you drink coffee, imagine drinking 1,000 cups of coffee. Like it just
It wakes you up.
yes, exactly. And you're already woken up from the workout, and now you're crushing it with an ice cold shower, and then you're feeding yourself. I try to feed myself good foods, you know. um there's a couple other things I missed out there. There's you know, I have a protein shake. That's the first thing that goes into my body before my workout. I get a scoop, put it in some water, and then I put it down. I pray in the morning. I ask God to give me guidance, and I thank him for all the health that my family and friends have. And I ask him to help me become a better person than I was yesterday. I think every day is a chance to improve, but you can't do it alone. You know, I believe in God, and I ask him to help me get stronger every day. And I thank him for not only the good days, but I also thank him for the bad days. The bad days are obviously what makes the good days feel so much better. And I know that through those bad days, there's growth, and
That's
I give
amazing.
thanks to that.
That is awesome. So tell us a little bit about you landing the job for the movie Stuber. Tell us a little bit of what that was like.
Oh my God, that was so much fun. You know, it's funny. I've trained myself to go to these auditions and let them go. You know, I try not to
Mm-hmm.
dwell on them. It's a little bit more challenging. Sometimes there's certain roles that I really, really am attracted to, and I feel like I could do a really amazing job with it. And, you know, sometimes they don't come in. Stuber, I remember I went to the audition. It was very physically demanding. I'm not sure if you've seen the film, but there's a scene that I do where I get shot in the leg, and it's just a bunch of physical action. And that was actually the scene they made me do in the audition room. So, you know, when you don't have the real world around you and you're just sitting in a chair in an empty room, it's kind of challenging to recreate these things. But I just let it rip, man. I let it rip, and I had a good time. I didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks, and then I got a call that they wanted to see me again with the director. I was surprised. I thought it had already come and gone. But I went to the callback. The director, Michael Dowse, was in the room. He was such a great man. You know, it's rare that people shake your hands in these rooms. And that was the first thing Mr. Michael Dowse did. He stood up. He was a very tall man, and he came up to me and he thanked me for coming in. And immediately I felt at home. We shook hands. I sat down and I did the scene, and they told me, thank you, you did a great job. And then I went home, and again, I let it go. I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
About a week later, I think that the phone call came in that they had sent an offer and they wanted to use me for the role. And I got very excited. And then every single phone call that I got after that, I would get more excited. First, it was like, you got the role. Then it was like, you're going to Atlanta. Then they called and told me how much I'm getting paid. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And then after that, they're like, yeah, you're gonna ride first class on a plane and to Atlanta. They're going to put you in a hotel. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Like me, Rene is going on first class.
What? I was like, what is that? Oh, that's a whole nother funny story. I remember I was sitting in first class, and I was sitting next to this guy who looks like he plays golf every day. And
You sure it wasn't Eric Farber? I'm just kidding. I'm just
hilarious.
kidding.
Oh, that's
I'm
good.
curious.
We got to keep that. No, I remember they came over with lunch, and I ordered the salmon. And
oh wait, you like fish now?
oh, I love it. I'll eat it all day. Give me those omega-3s.
As long as you cook it, right?
Yeah, cook it all the way. It was funny because I'm a coach guy, and I couldn't figure out where the table was. And I was touching everything, and the guy next to me looked at me like, oh, amateur, but he wouldn't tell me. And then finally I just looked at the stewardess and I was like, I'm sorry, where's the table? And she reaches over and pulls it out for me. And I'm like, wow, yeah, hi, my first time. Yeah, no.
See, you owned up to it, dude. Other people would be so embarrassed that they won't even ask. That they won't even, yeah, literally, they'll figure it out, but it's like, nope, no, I'm not gonna feel like a stupid person.
Carmen, you said something important actually there. I used to be very scared to ask questions. I have no shame. I will ask the dumbest questions.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, no, yeah, hey, it's a great skill. I
It's a
mean,
great skill. Yes.
you have to. Why would you go into something being unsure? I rather know 100% what exactly I'm walking into, even if it cost me sounding kind of unintelligent in their
Right.
eyes. But
Dude, that's so funny you said that when I was little. Mind you, I did radio, right? So
yeah,
I literally was just like, I used to talk, I can talk for days, like legit. My
Trust me, I know.
mom says, my mom says that when we used to be in a crosswalk and I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, that I would literally start talking to the next person that was going to cross the street with us. And I would ask a million questions through the crosswalk.
I totally see that.
And she says that she would ask me, she's like, ay, pero ¿por qué tienes que platicar? Why do you have to talk to strangers? It's not good.
Yeah.
And I would always tell her, I want to know who I'm going to cross the street with. What if a car hits us? And then that was the end of our life. And I always go to the extreme. That's just how I am. That's my brain is wired that way, you know?
Yeah.
Make the best out of every situation. So I would always ask her, I want to know who I'm crossing the street with. Yes, you might be my mom, but who's next to us?
Yeah.
And I would always be like, hi, what's your name? How old are you? Where do you work on? And she says that I just used to do that. So it's funny that you say, like, you just need to, I've always been like that. I will ask, even if it makes me feel dumb or if it makes me feel weird, I will still ask.
Yeah.
What's the worst they can say? No.
Yeah, no, or look at you funny. I developed that. By the way, that's a quality in you. You're destined to be on radio and television and stuff right there. For real. That's definitely it seems like it's natural in your soul. But no, I use that on set constantly. And in my first few roles, I remember back on my Switched At Birthdays, I remember a specific story. It was actually my first episode. I have a big speech where I'm yelling at one of the leads. Her name is Katie Leclerc, which she's a beautiful human being. And I'm doing a scene where I'm yelling at her character. And I remember they were giving me instruction to just let it go, just give it to her. This is a scene where she becomes strong because of you. And I was like, okay, so we're doing the scenes, and I feel a little uncomfortable. I feel like I'm forcing the yelling. It's not natural. And, at the time I didn't want to say anything, but I knew it felt wrong. Something felt weird inside of me, and I didn't want to speak on it. I didn't want to embarrass myself. And then at some point, the director came up to me and he said, hey, how's everything? Are you good? And I said, yes. And then I knew that was my moment. I'm either going to bring it up or I'm going to swallow it and just, go with the day. And hopefully they get a good take from me. But then I said, you know what, may I ask a question? And he said, absolutely. And I said, listen, that scene, I feel like I'm just yelling to yell. Like, I feel like I'm just shouting to shout. I don't feel anything. And he's like, well, they like what you're doing. And I was like, that's great. But I was just wondering, like, can I do something different? He's like, look, here's what we'll do. You give me 2 takes of what they want, and then I'll give you 1 for you. How does that sound? And I said, that is amazing. Thank you so much. And that goes back to not being shy or scared to ask questions.
To speak up.
Exactly. And I think that's another thing that, we gotta look, if you got something in your heart, if you got something to say, there's always a good way to say it. I could have demanded that he give me another take. But, the first thing I said is, may I ask you a question? And, that was the icebreaker. And I think with anything, not just acting related situations, but I think with anything, there's always an approach that can, maybe diffuse or make things less aggressive, where everyone can walk away happy. And yeah, that's definitely.
Hey, Rene, so I have to stop you again. Because
tell me.
This is so important for our people to hear. So on our site, the Latin Live site, we have a lot of people that are, having opinions about what's going on in terms of the protests with the BLM movement.
Yes.
And a lot of that is, where's the Latino voice, right? We know, like I was beat as a kid with batons when I lived in these neighborhoods. I know that it goes on, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're not speaking out. And I think it's so important to speak up, to speak out, to protest, to ask the question, to say that you are also, you deserve to know the answer. You deserve to.
Yes.
you know, it's just a so important access point, I think, and I think you kind of show the example of how it's helped you.
Yeah, you know, we have to say something. We have to stand up for ourselves, and it's a beautiful thing. I think right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, with just watching people come together, you know, from different races too. That's what I find the most beautiful. I have friends, like I call them my Gen Z friends, my younger friends, and I love the compassion and that they carry in their hearts. I can literally feel their generation and how they don't let things slide. You know,
It's
I'll
a
make
whole
certain.
different world right now.
It really is. And you know what? They're not taking the BS anymore, and they're speaking up, and I think that's beautiful. You know, it's long overdue, and I think they're really setting a tone, and it shows you a lot of hope for the future. You know, that our next generations that are coming in are finally really putting their foot down and not accepting. I mean, you see all this stuff with the Me Too movement and all the women's power movement that's going on right now. There's no more BS. You know, it's and
I mean,
people.
I think we're getting to realist as it can get. I mean, just look at our
Yeah,
president. Like that is as realist as you can get. Like
yeah, it's tough. You know,
we're in
it's
different times.
yeah, I keep hearing the term cancel culture, and you know, it's just people are getting called out for things that maybe they weren't called out before,
Right.
and it's really changing society, and hopefully it'll all be positive. You know, I still think maybe some people will take advantage of these movements and to, you know, become famous or just be recognized for a moment or whatever, get money. But I think there's a lot of truth to it behind there. There's definitely a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed, and I think it's happening right now.
Definitely. So where do we see Rene after, I don't know, where do you see yourself? What's your next goal? Where is Rene headed?
Man, that's a good question. Hopefully on to becoming a better version of myself every day. I want to, you know, I want to take care of my mom. My mom's still working. I want her to
What
retire
did
at
she
some point.
say? What did she say when you became an actor? Like, what was your mom's reaction?
You know what's funny? Mira, my mom, ella no entendió nada. She didn't get it. Like, I
She's like,
remember it's like,
what?
yeah, it's like, it wasn't until she could actually see things, you know, when I was like, Mom, voy a salir en un comercial, and like, she couldn't see it. It's like, oh, okay, qué chévere, está bien. Anyways,
Oh, mom.
yeah, it wasn't a big deal. I think when did my mom start to get excited? I forget. I want to say it was maybe when she saw the movie Stuber. I mean, she saw me in a couple commercials. I didn't. Actually, she really liked this one. I did an Axe commercial about a year and a half ago. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Did you get a chance to see that? I'm in a bubble bath, and I'm like saying all these like semi-sexual things.
I did see that.
It's
That
in
was
Spanish. It's
that was
funny.
freaking awesome. That
Yeah,
was
it's
freaking awesome.
I gotta look
Carmen.
at this. I gotta look at this,
I gotta
dude.
send you the link. It's me in a bubble bath, and I'm like saying a bunch of really
No, we're
silly
gonna
stuff in Spanish.
just for you, Renee. We're gonna include that link.
Straight up.
Awesome. Oh my God. Yeah,
I'll
I would
include the
love
link
that.
for sure.
That'd be so dope.
So what did
But
she
yeah.
say?
Oh no, my mom, she was just excited. She's like, "Ay, mijo, you know, cómo pongo esto en mi Facebook? Enséñame, por favor, quiero ponerlo." And
Aww.
like yesterday, I had an article come out that was really sweet, and she was texting me all night. No sé cómo ponerlo en mi Instagram, por favor. Ayúdame.
Aww.
And I was like, okay, mom, I've had a
She's supporting
screenshot.
you, dude. She's
Yeah.
supporting you straight up.
Yeah. My
That's so
dad's the same way. My dad gets excited. They always ask me to send them things, and you know, it's fun. I think especially for them. I mean, look, I'm very humbled and grateful for the opportunities, but I wonder how my parents take it. You know, my dad, he rode La Bestia. Do you guys know what La Bestia is?
No. Oh, well,
Okay.
that's the train. The
Yes.
train that you guys take, right? To
Yeah.
cross over?
My dad hopped on top of that train,
Shit.
and he rode it all the way from El Salvador until he got here, and he crossed the border. And then my mom and I, you know, we flew in, and my mom had to figure out how to get across the border after I got across as a baby.
You know, Renee,
And
I have to ask you here because this
Dime.
before we because this thing is so important to especially to our people that are watching, listening.
Dime.
Is, you know, you came in here on asylum, which is a completely legal way to come into the U.S. It's in the Constitution. It's a part of this country. It's part of who we are. You can see like the beautiful thing that that
They
the
created.
asylum created with you, right?
Yeah.
You're paying tons of money in taxes, I'm sure.
Whew. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We in Cali.
Yeah.
And you're providing inspiration to a whole generation that's going to be, providing basically economy for the world, right?
Yeah.
The U.S. is the most important country. But now we have these kids sleeping in cages, right?
Oh yeah.
And, this opportunity, they deserve this opportunity. This is a part of the law in the U.S.
Yeah.
And, some people think that these people are coming over illegally. No. This is a legal thing that these families are doing.
Yeah.
They're
Legit.
for asylum, which is part of the Constitution. Change the Constitution then.
Yeah.
The Constitution right
It's
now
tough.
says that this is completely legal, and what we're doing right now is just, it's beyond moral issue. It's a
ugly.
spiritual issue.
It's ugly, man. There's kids in cages. Yeah.
Right.
I can't agree with you more on that. It's just it's difficult to watch. I think about, people are like taking a risk on, getting robbed, dying, getting raped to get to this country. There must be something very, very important, or something that is very dangerous that they're running away from. My dad has a story he shared with me once. He grew up in this building, this very rundown building, and when the Civil War was going on in El Salvador, I'm not sure if I had been born yet or if I was just a baby, but my dad told me the story how they pulled all the men out of the building and they lined them up on the sidewalk. And I believe it was the government, and they were asking who was in the guerrillas, who was one of the fighters. And they would ask everyone, and obviously everyone says no. And if they thought you were lying, they would shoot you. And I believe my dad told me they shot one of the men in that line, and luckily they obviously didn't shoot my father. But it's these real life situations that people are running away from. If my parents had never made it here, like God knows what, my mom's told me that when she was a little girl, she would see dead bodies on the street, and this is what we were running from. We didn't come here to steal anything. We didn't come here to get handouts. My mom and my dad, they never accepted welfare or anything. They would rather work 3 jobs a piece and not sleep than to accept government handouts. And I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a little help from the government when you need it, but we didn't run here for that. We didn't come here to take any resources or anything. We just came here because we didn't want to die. We didn't want to.
Because Rene wanted to be a star. I'm just kidding.
Oh man.
No, I'm totally kidding with you, bro.
No. Yeah, but it's a very real thing, and it makes me, when I look at those kids and I look at their parents, I'm like, look, you're willing to take all these risks to get here. Like there's something that's motivating you that's really sucks where you're coming from, and I could go on and go even.
What drives
deeper.
me nuts, Rene, about this is that we help cause some of these. Like we were funneling money to, and this is like out in the open. It's not like it's a conspiracy kind of thing. The U.S. was supporting some of this violence down there.
Yeah.
And
I learned that later on in adulthood.
I went to Nicaragua once, and I never learned this in high school, never learned this anywhere. And there was a little pamphlet, and it talked about the history of Nicaragua. And basically it was an Anglo-American that came that wanted the banana fields. So basically he created war to be able
get
to
the banana fields.
And it's right here in this little booklet. I'm like, why did I never learn about this?
Yeah.
So like what breaks my heart is we were all just little, who didn't know what was going on. But now, I'm political. I'm sure you guys are political too. We're voting, and, we caused some of these issues.
Yeah.
And now we're facing them here. They're at the border. They're trying to get across, to come to asylum.
Yeah.
We have asylum in this country, but we're not letting them.
It's definitely something that has to be addressed. Look, just knowing that there's kids sleeping on these little mats on cement floors surrounded by cages, just that thought alone is just that's rough. Kids being separated from their parents, and I'm not sure if you saw this movie called Icebox. It was on HBO. it has to do with a boy who gets sent to one of these cages and is separated from his family. And in the film, they depict how this little boy has to go represent himself in
court.
front of the and this little boy is literally speaking to the judge on his behalf, and they're asking him all these legal terms and questions, and I mean,
and that's happening. That's happening for real.
Exactly. And you know, there's not there. I mean, it is mainstream news, but it's not daily mainstream news anymore. And but it still exists, and that's actually something that I definitely want to shed some more light on moving forward. You know, hopefully, God willing, you know, more opportunities come my way, which will create a bigger voice for myself, and that's definitely something that I would love to speak on. And
I can see you doing that, definitely. I can totally see you doing something like that. And, you know, you would have our support 100%. We are all in the same situation. We obviously know, and this type of situation doesn't just happen for those looking or seeking for asylum. It happens at home here. It happens for US born citizens as well. So it's just a lot to take on. And I'm very thankful for everything you've shared. I mean, we've dived deep into the life of Rene Moran. We're very excited what you've accomplished. We're wishing you nothing but the best. We hope you do become that Latino version of Will Smith. That would be so cool.
And I'm telling you, like, if everybody's feeling like I'm feeling inspired.
Awesome.
I agree.
I want to follow Rene. I want Rene to consider us your small group of people that want the best for you.
Thank you so much. That it takes
like,
that's what it that's
so many levels, you know.
That's what it takes, man. I haven't to get here where I am at this very moment with the few accomplishments that I've been able to make. I wouldn't have been able to do it without a lot of support. And you saying that, it means a lot to me, because I know it can lead to even bigger results and more positive change and more things. So thank you. That really means a lot to me, Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What can you tell someone that's aspiring to become an actor that's listening to the podcast right now? What would be the first? I mean, we've given tons of information and tips, and what would be the one last thing you would definitely tell somebody that we haven't touched on?
I would say don't do it, and then based on your response, I would talk to you a little bit more. No, really, you have to be 1,000% passionate about it. You don't do this to be famous. You don't do this to get attention or pats on the back. You do this because you love it, and you naturally, there's something in your soul that wants to tell stories. It's very easy to think, oh man, I'm going to get famous and I'm going to buy a Ferrari. And it's like, let me tell you something, that maybe you might achieve that one day, but it's a tough road. It's not easy. You need to really.
I think that's so important what you said there again, Rene. You know, I'm here with Silicon Valley venture capitalists, and I have to go in, and sometimes we talk, and sometimes we have, you know, there's conferences and things like that. And the number one thing these VCs tell startups coming in is get out of here. Go home. Wherever country you came from, just don't do this.
Yes. And
the two that are left, maybe one
makes it.
Yeah. Well,
but I think I think you've hit on such an, it doesn't necessarily just apply to acting, right?
No.
It's like it's got to be a part of who you are.
Yeah. I think when we're created and we're dropped off in this world, we have certain, and this is just how I feel. We have certain gifts and talents, and I think it's our job to deliver them to this world. And I think the journey and life is just kind of like figuring out what those gifts are. And once you embrace them and you nurture them, you water them, you feed them sun, and you treat them well, and you develop it and you get better, because naturally you'll be talented, but then with a strong foundation and education and whatever it is that you do, I think that's when you really blossom, and you come out of that cocoon and you become the full butterfly. And but that's our job. I think that's what our job is here on earth. Discover what you were meant to leave in this world, and do your job and enjoy it while it lasts. And then
Beautifully
That's
said.
exactly what I said. Today is a beautiful day, guys. I'm super excited that we had the opportunity to connect with you, Rene. And beyond blessed, I wish you nothing but the best. And where can people follow you on social media, become a fan, get your movies? I mean, besides Googling you, and we might find that Axe commercial. No, I'm really gonna tag that Axe commercial.
Oh, you're gonna, yeah, it's so silly. I'm easy. I'm mostly on Instagram. Twitter's a little aggressive for me sometimes, but I still have it up. And on Facebook, but mostly Instagram. My handle is at I am Rene Moran.
Awesome. Just one R.
One E, RENE MORAN.
Perfect. That's what's up. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure we can stay here talking for even longer. But is there any one last thing you want to touch that we have not touched on before we say goodbye?
No, just love one another and keep excelling. And times could be a little bit challenging right now, but we're gonna get through it. And we'll get through it together. And call your mom and make sure you tell her you love her. Yeah.
Porque si no te llega el chanclazo. I'm just kidding.
Ya tú sabes.
That's what's up. So thank you again to our sponsors as well. Pacific Workers Compensation Law Center, Pacific Workers, the Lawyers for Injured Workers, which also has the double side. For the Hispanic community, you can find them under Tu Lucha as well. If you've been injured at work, personal injury, you definitely want to get these guys under your belt. Remember, insurance companies do have a lawyer. You should have one too. You have rights, and this is the one place to go. You can find them as well at pacificworkers.com. From there, you can jump also on tulucha.com. My name's Carmen. Joining me and Rene
Moran. My bad.
It's a pleasure. You're all good. It's a pleasure. Thank you once again, and we'll catch you pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you guys for having me so much. I had a blast being with you guys.
Thank you, Rene.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. We are the Latino Nation podcast presented by Latin Live. I'm your host, Carmen Ramirez, joined by my co-host and founder of Latin Live, Eric Osuna, produced by yours truly, and our second engineer and editor is Francisco Patch Fuentes. Our tech director is Jose Moreno. Our graphic guru is Laura Tinoco. And we're executive produced by Mr. Eric Farber himself. Latino Nation is produced by Hustle and Flow Production.